What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video, another day, another blessing, another me. You guys gonna see. As you guys can see by the title, guys, this video title, what I delivered to P. Diddy mansion as a truck driver. This is my first time ever doing a P. Diddy video. Now, I have heard a lot about this man case, a lot of this stuff going on about P. Diddy. I never done a reaction, guys. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Make sure your post notification on, guys, so when I get ready to post one of your requested videos, you will get the notification. Make sure you guys go and subscribe to my other channel. The link will be in the description down below, and follow all the rest of my social media. Let's get into this video. Let's see what P. Diddy got going on. Yeah, man. All this freaky deaky sexual crap.
One time he locked me in containers.
Ooh, and contain weeks coming on like that. Who is she, by the way?
A shipment of kids. There were kids in there that didn't speak English. There were kids that were sick and that were already dying.
Yo, what do you want with kids? Kids, though? I thought maybe they was talking about.
There were babies. There were babies that were 6 years old. And I'll never forget them just crying, and everybody was just staring at them. Everybody was just staring at each other. Nobody knew whether or not to move. I was freaked out. There were kids in there from Africa, from Mexico, and there was a bunch of trucks.
Sometimes the things we think we've left behind come back to haunt us. You think you've closed a chapter, put it behind you, locked it away for good, but life has a way of reopening those doors. And when it does, what you find behind them is never what you expect. I spent over 30 years as a truck driver, crisscrossing the country and occasionally venturing beyond its borders. For most of my life, the hum of the highway and the endless stretch of road ahead were all I knew. In the early years, I was passionate about the job. I was careful, meticulous even. I'd check every inch of the truck before a trip, the tires, the engine, the trailer. I wanted to know what I was transporting, not because it was required, but because it made me feel in control. The road might be unpredictable, but at least I could ensure my cargo wasn't. But 30 years is a long time, and something shifted over the decades. Maybe it was the loneliness, the long hours, or the sheer monotony of it all. Or maybe it was just age creeping in, dulling the edges of my enthusiasm. By the end of my career, I had stopped caring about the details. I no longer asked questions about what I was hauling.
Wow.
I just wanted to get the job done and go home. When I retired, I thought I was done with trucking for good. I was looking forward to spending time with my family, relaxing and leaving the long, grueling hours of the road behind.
Not if something gonna come back and hunt you. You know, it's like, how could you rest?
Me. But life has a funny way of pulling you back in when you least expect it. It was an ordinary evening, one of those quiet, uneventful nights where the hours seem to drift by without much happening. I was sitting on the couch, lazily flipping through channels on the TV, not really paying attention to anything in particular. That's when my phone rang. The name on the screen stopped me cold. My old manager. We hadn't spoken in years, not since I'd retired. For a moment, I debated whether to answer, but curiosity got the better of me, and I picked up. His voice was calm, but there was an urgency behind it that I couldn't ignore. He told me he had a job for me. 2 trips, simple deliveries. At first, I was confused. I was retired.
Wait. First of all, is this talking about Diddy mansion, or they don't trick me? Because as I always tell you guys, I don't just go and do sneak peeks of the videos. I watch it with y'all. We watch it together. But it seems like to me this is a whole nother different something else going on here. Maybe I should just keep watching, right?
Why was he calling me? But then he mentioned the money. It wasn't just a lot of money. It was more than I'd ever been offered for a job in my entire career.
Wow.
$1 million. Half up front, half after the second trip I almost dropped the phone. The number was staggering.
Now, if somebody called me and say, I pay you $1 million for this job. What? I don't know about y'all, but me? First, I'll be very scared, and the reason of, because if you want to pay me $1 million to do a job that you don't want to do, it has to be something illegal. But that million show sounds good.
Even in my prime, I'd never seen anything close to that kind of money.
Right.
At first I said no. I was done with trucking. I didn't need the stress, the long hours, the uncertainty. But he kept pushing, insisting the job was easy, straightforward. He mentioned the client, a big celebrity named Diddy. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't know much about celebrities. I'm an old school kind of guy. But the way my manager talked about it made it sound like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Eventually,
Looking to build a chatbot for your website? On Fiverr, you can find AI experts who will quickly and easily develop one to suit your needs.
Against my better judgment, I agreed. The money was too good to pass up, and part of me was curious.
Y'all, comment down below. If someone would offer you $1 million to do a job, would you do it? Let me know in the comments. I want to know. I'm curious.
What kind of delivery was worth that much money?
Exactly.
2 days later, I found myself at a facility in Detroit, standing in front of a massive truck that was already loaded and ready to go. My partner for the job was a younger guy, maybe in his 30s, with a sharp, no-nonsense attitude. We introduced ourselves quickly, and then my manager pulled me aside to go over the rules. The first rule was simple, but strange. Under no circumstances were we allowed to open the trailer. He emphasized this point so strongly that it immediately raised red flags in my mind. The second rule was even stranger. 2 cars would escort us for the entire trip, one in front and one behind. Finally, we had to hand over our phones to the security team. When I asked why, my manager just shrugged and said the client didn't want us distracted. "You're being paid a lot of money," he said. "Just follow the rules." It felt off, but the paycheck silenced my doubts. I handed over my phone, climbed into the truck, and started driving. The first few hours of the trip were uneventful. I kept the radio on to stay alert, letting the familiar sound of classic rock fill the cab. My partner sat beside me, staring out the window or occasionally glancing at the map. But as the night wore on, I started to hear something. Faint at first, almost like a whisper. It was a muffled sound, coming from the trailer behind us. At first I thought it might just be the cargo shifting, but the longer I listened, the less it sounded like something natural. It was rhythmic, almost like a knock, and it sent a chill down my spine. When we stopped to switch drivers, I mentioned the sound to my partner. He nodded, his expression grim, and admitted he'd heard it too, but he brushed it off, saying it was probably nothing. "We're in the middle of nowhere," he said. "Sounds like that aren't unusual out here." His words didn't comfort me, but I decided to let it go. I grabbed a quick meal, climbed into the back of...
I know it was very extremely hard to try to ignore that, because your intuition telling you that it's something, it's wrong. But you thinking about that $1 million money that you ain't never seen before, and then you got a family, so it's like, dang. But me personally, I'm not finna deliver no bodies or people like that. The money's not even worth it. Pertaining to when you have to sit in front of the judge and they have to throw them books at you, and then you'll be gone for a whole lifetime away from your family, no money, no work, no nothing, no.
The cab and tried to get some sleep. Even as I closed my eyes, the sound lingered in my mind. When we finally reached our destination, the sun was just beginning to rise, casting a golden glow over the sprawling mansion before us. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen. A massive estate surrounded by towering gates and a sea of perfectly manicured lawns. Security guards swarmed the property, their movements sharp and precise. The moment we pulled in, we were instructed to step out of the truck. A team of guards took over, driving the vehicle into the mansion's loading dock. We weren't allowed to follow. Instead, We were told to wait outside. The morning air was heavy, almost suffocating, and the silence was unnerving. My mind raced with questions. What was in that trailer? Why all the secrecy? Eventually, curiosity got the better of me. I told one of the guards I needed to use the bathroom. At first, he refused, but after some pleading, he relented. He led me inside the mansion, his movements precise and robotic. The interior was lavish, but there was something cold and sterile about it. Inside the bathroom, I noticed a small window. It was almost hidden, tucked away in the corner. Through it, I saw two guards carrying a massive container with a lock on it. And then I heard it again, the banging. My heart raced as realization began to dawn on me. These weren't just containers. Something or someone was inside them. The thought made my stomach turn. I looked around the bathroom, my eyes darting from corner to corner, searching for any clues that might explain what I'd just seen. That's when I noticed it. A camera. It was mounted high on the wall, pointed directly at me. The sight of it sent a chill down my spine.
Man, get that $1 million and mind your business.
What kind of place installs cameras in bathrooms?
Right.
What kind of person feels the need to monitor something so private?
Right.
When I confronted the guard about it, he just laughed and dismissed my concerns. Don't worry, he said, that thing doesn't even work. But his words didn't reassure me. If anything, they only deepened my unease. When I returned outside, I shared what I'd seen with my partner. His face went pale, and for the first time I saw fear in his eyes. But before we could act on our suspicions, the truck was returned to us, and we were instructed to take it to another facility. The paycheck they handed us, $500,000 each, momentarily dulled the horror of what we'd experienced. $500,000 for one trip. It was the most money I'd ever made in my life. The next part of the job was supposed to be simple. Pick up a second truck at the facility, drive it back to the mansion, and receive the second half of the payment. It sounded straightforward. Just another leg of a trip we'd already done.
All right. So y'all comment down below. If you guys know that your intuition is telling y'all that it's something just not right, but you're getting paid a shitload of money. $500,000 just to drive the truck. Would y'all mind y'all business? Or y'all are trying to figure out what the heck is going on? Because anybody would know. If you're going to pay me $500,000 just for driving the truck, it's something ain't right. Would y'all get y'all money? Or would y'all be nosy?
Once before. But the unease from the first delivery lingered, growing heavier with each passing moment. After leaving the mansion, we drove to the facility in near complete silence. The only sound was the steady hum of the truck's engine, which did little to drown out the thoughts racing through my head. My partner, who had been so nonchalant earlier, now seemed noticeably tense. His hands gripped the armrests of his seat tightly, his knuckles white against the worn leather. Every so often, I'd catch him glancing at the mirrors, as if he were trying to spot something or someone behind us. It wasn't just paranoia.
I'm offering you the opportunity of a lifetime.
Get Max for $2.99 a month for 6 months.
The escort cars from the first trip were still there, flanking us on either side. The sleek black vehicles moved in perfect synchronization with us, their tinted windows concealing whoever was inside. Their presence should have been reassuring, but instead it felt oppressive, like a constant reminder that we were under watch, every mile of the journey being scrutinized. When we finally reached the facility, the second truck was waiting for us. It was identical to the first. Same size, same pristine condition, and already loaded. Even from a distance, I could sense the ominous weight of its cargo. The guards who met us didn't bother with pleasantries. Their movements were sharp, efficient, and robotic, as though they had done this 100 times before. One of them handed us the keys without a word, his gloved hand cold and firm as it brushed against mine. A brief nod was the only acknowledgement we received before the guards disappeared into the shadows, their faces hard and unreadable. I climbed into the cab, my legs feeling heavier than they should have. My partner volunteered to take the first shift, and I was more than willing to let him. As he adjusted his seat and started the engine, I leaned back, trying to relax. But the tension in the air was suffocating.
Yeah.
The escort cars fell into formation the moment we pulled out of the facility.
I literally, guys, got chills. Look at my hair standing up off my arm. Like, oh, this is creepy. Oh, what do people want with other people? Organs, or like what are you really selling? Like, what's going on?
One slid into position ahead of us, its taillights glowing faintly in the dark, while the other lingered just behind our rear bumper. Their presence was unrelenting, a constant shadow that made my skin crawl. Not long into the drive, the sounds started again. This time, they were louder, more desperate. The rhythmic banging from the trailer was no longer faint or sporadic. It was frantic, urgent, as though whatever was inside was fighting to get out. The muffled cries that accompanied the banging were unmistakable now, rising and falling in a way that sent chills down my spine. I turned to my partner, my voice low but firm. "We can't ignore this. Something's not right." He shook his head, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. "We don't ask questions. That's the deal. You want to mess with these people? Go ahead. But I'm not risking my life for something that doesn't concern me." His words hit me like
Do you think he got a point? The friend that's driving the car?
punch to the gut. Part of me wanted to argue, to tell him that we couldn't just sit there and do nothing. But the other part of me, the part that understood how dangerous this situation was, knew he was right. Whatever we were caught up in, it was bigger than us. Bigger than anything we could handle. I tried to distract myself, focusing on the monotonous rhythm of the road, the steady beat of the tires on the pavement. But the sounds from the trailer wouldn't stop. Every bang, every muffled cry.
I see why it hunt, you know, he's getting hunted, because his ego, his pride, his heart just knew it was something wasn't right. He already pretty much got the confirmation that there's people or something back there. And it hunted him because he knew he was studied doing the delivery, and he know it was people. He know, but he didn't want to make it his business.
Was a reminder of the rules we were breaking just by acknowledging it. The escort cars stayed close the entire time, their dark forms a constant presence in the side mirrors. Occasionally, the car behind us would flash its headlights briefly, almost as if to remind us that we were being watched. When we arrived back at the mansion, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the sprawling estate. The entire property seemed to loom over us, its massive gates and towering walls exuding an air of secrecy and power. The guards were already waiting, their faces as blank and impassive as before. They took over immediately, their movements precise and practiced as they unloaded the trailer. I watched them work, my stomach churning with unease.
Are you unemployed, underemployed, or just in search of something better? Then it may be time for...
They handled the...
All money ain't good money. You know, don't lose your soul over money. Like him being hunted for the rest of his life over money. Come on now.
Cargo with a sense of urgency, their eyes constantly darting around as if they were afraid of being watched themselves. My partner stood beside me, his body rigid and his hands shoved deep into his pockets. He hadn't said a word since we'd pulled into the driveway, and his silence was beginning to unnerve me. As we waited outside, I couldn't help but feel like the walls of the mansion were closing in on me. The air was heavy, suffocating, and the faint sounds of movement inside the house only added to my unease. The longer I stood there, the more I felt like I was being swallowed whole by the weight of it all. Finally, after what felt like hours, the guards returned. One of them handed us 2 envelopes, each containing the second half of our payment, another $500,000. The total was now $1 million each, just as promised. But as I held the envelope in my hands, the weight of what we'd done began to sink in. The money felt tainted, like it carried the guilt and fear of whatever was in those trailers. I looked at my partner, who was clutching his envelope tightly, his face pale and drawn. "We're done, right?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, but there was no relief in his expression. "Yeah," he said, "we're done." We climbed into the cab of the now empty truck, ready to head back to the facility in Detroit. The process at the mansion had been the same as before, cold, efficient, and devoid of any explanation. But something was different this time. The 2 escort cars that had flanked us during the first trip and accompanied us to the facility earlier were now gone. Their absence was stark, almost jarring. Without their constant presence, the drive felt unnervingly quiet, as if we'd been abandoned. The cab was filled with an oppressive silence as my partner and I pulled out of the mansion's long driveway and onto the dark highway. I glanced in the mirrors instinctively, half expecting to see the black vehicles trailing us. But there was nothing, just the empty road behind us, stretching endlessly into the dark.
Because they don't need to trail y'all now. They just wanted to make sure that you guys don't touch that trailer.
Darkness. For the first time during this job, it was just us. The absence of the escort cars should have been a relief, but instead it made me feel exposed, vulnerable. The weight of the previous trips, the locked containers, the muffled cries, the constant watchful eyes, was now replaced by a suffocating sense of isolation. The truck, now devoid of cargo, felt lighter, but that only made the journey more unsettling. The hum of the engine seemed louder, more pronounced, filling the void left by the absence of the sounds from the trailer. The rhythmic banging and muffled cries were gone, but their echoes lingered in my mind, haunting me with every mile we traveled. My partner was unusually quiet. He kept his eyes fixed on the road ahead, his hands gripping the wheel tightly. I could tell he was trying to process everything just as I was, but neither of us dared to speak. What could we even say? The job was done. The money was it.
And even if you go back to your family, like your wife and your kids, you know, your wife, and then you go, and then you just spending unusual money she's not used to you spending, and then she curious of where do you get the money from. It's like, would you say something? You know what I'm saying? It's because that's a lot of money
in our hands. But the questions, the doubts, remained. The highway stretched on in eerie silence, the truck's headlights illuminating the empty road ahead. It was as if the world had been swallowed by the darkness, leaving just the 2 of us to navigate this endless void. When we finally reached the facility, it was nearly midnight. The floodlights cast harsh shadows over the lot, illuminating the guards who were waiting for us. They moved quickly, taking the truck without a word, their faces as expressionless as ever.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, I built this spot. Just make it work fast and I'll give it a shot.
We climbed out of the cab, our legs stiff and heavy from the long drive. One of the guards approached us, handing over a clipboard with the final set of papers to sign. The process was mechanical, impersonal, as if we were just another cog in a machine. After signing the
I
paperwork,
want to sign my name. I would have.
my partner and I stood there for a moment, neither of us knowing what to say. The weight of the week hung heavy between us, unspoken but understood. Finally, he extended his hand, his grip firm but brief. "Take care," he said, his voice low and strained. "You too," I replied, nodding as I watched him walk away. He disappeared into the parking lot, heading toward his car without looking back. I stood there for a moment, watching him go, before turning and making my way to my own car. The drive home was long and quiet. The streets were empty, the city asleep under the blanket of night. The envelope sat on the passenger seat beside me, its weight a constant reminder of the past week. I glanced at it occasionally, the sight of it filling me with a strange mix of emotions, relief, guilt, and an overwhelming sense of dread. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the exhaustion had caught up with me. I turned off the engine and sat there for a moment, staring at the darkened windows of my house.
I know.
My family was asleep inside, blissfully unaware of what I'd been through. Once inside, I placed the envelope on the kitchen table and sat down across from it. The silence of the house was deafening, the stillness amplifying the turmoil in my mind. I stared at the envelope, the stack of money inside representing not just a fortune, but also the weight of everything I'd witnessed and couldn't explain. I should have felt relief, maybe even pride, at having completed the job and earned such an enormous sum.
Nope.
But all I felt was guilt. That night, sleep didn't come easily. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the trailer. I heard the banging, the cries, the desperate pleas muffled by thick walls and rules I had been ordered to follow. My mind conjured images of what might have been inside, terrible, unthinkable things that I couldn't push away. In a desperate attempt to quiet my thoughts, I turned to the internet. I started searching for anything that might explain what I had witnessed. I typed in keywords like Diddy, trucks, and deliveries, hoping for something, anything, that would make sense of it all. It wasn't long before I stumbled upon a video. A woman named Allie Carter was speaking directly into the camera, her voice trembling with emotion. She talked about being locked in containers, transported like cargo to parties where unspeakable things happened. Her words mirrored everything I had seen and heard during those deliveries. She described the locked containers, the frantic banging, the muffled cries. She spoke about the cold, cramped conditions inside, about children being treated like objects, like props for the twisted desires of those who attended the parties. I reached out to her, desperate for answers. To my surprise, she responded quickly.
Look, he just won't let it go. He ain't gonna let it go, but you can get that million though. Ooh.
Agreeing to speak with me. When we talked on the phone, her voice was raw with pain. She described the horrors she had endured in excruciating detail, her words painting a picture so vivid and horrifying that it made my stomach turn. They called us party favors, she said, her tone hollow. We were placed on tables, dressed up, and displayed like decorations. People would use us however they wanted. We were nothing to them, just things. Her words hit me like a sledgehammer. The thought of those containers, the muffled cries, the desperate banging, it all made sense now. I had transported human lives, children, to a place where they were treated like objects.
Wow.
By the time the call ended, I was in tears. The guilt was overwhelming.
He kind of felt that what it was, but he just couldn't put his mind on it with the banging. Like, who else going to be banging if it's not a human? And making these sounds and stuff.
Weight of what I had done crushing. I had been ignorant of the details at the time, but ignorance didn't absolve me. I was complicit. I'll never forget what Allie said before she hung up. You didn't know, but now you do. Don't stay silent. Her words haunt me to this day. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive myself, but I can't stay silent. The truth needs to be told no matter how painful it is.
Yeah, that's right.
Some doors, once opened, can never be closed.
Yeah.
And some truths, once learned, can never be forgotten.
Wow. Yo, that was deep. That was some deep stuff. Y'all, listen. Oh, gosh. Comment down below and let me know what y'all thought about this video. Me personally.
You know when you and your friends get all...
Me personally, I would be just like the guy, because when you got families and kids, like, just what if that was your wife and your child in that back trailer? You know, we all need money, but all money ain't good money. I'm not gonna listen. Like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Y'all leave y'all thoughts in the comment. Make sure y'all share this video and go subscribe to my other channel, guys. Y'all make sure y'all stay safe and blessed and let God do the rest. And I'm gonna see you guys in the next video. Don't go nowhere. Meet me on the next video. Peace, love you, bye.